All right, so yes, by the end of this lesson, you'll understand stereotypes and stereotyping, cultural diversity in Australia, other diversities in Australian society, and work practices in diversity. So just starting off with a little quote here by William Sloan. It says, diversity may be the hardest thing for a society to live with, and perhaps the most dangerous thing for society to be without. Okay. So what are some of the challenges you might say that diverse cultures or diverse workforces might face? Like they're saying here, what makes it one of the hardest things for a society to live with?
I think
I don't speak from their own experiences here. Sorry, go down.
Cultural norm, different cultural norms, I suppose, coming from their own home and their own environment into a work environment, I suppose, and adapting to the work environment.
Yeah, good. Right. And then the last part of that saying, the most dangerous thing for society to be without. So what can happen when there is a lack of diversity in a society?
Nazi Germany.
It's probably the most glaring example of it, yeah? Right, just wanted everyone to be uniform and the same, and anybody who was outcast, yeah? Obviously, that was not a very good situation, yeah? All right. So thinking specifically now about the care industry, yeah, or the community services industry, yeah. What are some of the benefits of embracing diverse teams in the care industry?
Like representation.
Good, yeah. Why is that important? Scott, was that you? Yeah.
Yeah, well, different clients might be of similar backgrounds of the diversity, so they might feel that they're represented and can get a voice.
Yeah, good. And that can be as simple as having a translator that can speak to them in their native language, yeah? Just making sure that it's a very simple thing, but it can be a very important thing too, yeah? Okay. What else can we get through embracing diversity?
I think learning about other people's culture as well, you'll certainly learn what's appropriate for them and how to make them feel more comfortable, just in regards to physical cues, how to approach them, how to make them feel more comfortable. Like, so different cultures have different things that offend them. So if you are across and embracing diversity, you know what signs of respect are and what signs of disrespect are.
Good, yeah. And that comes down to the concept that we're trying to just look at last week around cultural competence, yeah? So that's the ability to understand the various other cultures and then operate within those cultures. Sorry, Scott, did you have something else?
Different way of approaching things, so different ideas coming in.
Good, yeah. So everyone brings their own history, experiences, education to the group, and the wider that experience and education and history is, then yeah, the easier it is to innovate and find new ways to do things. All right. So we're going to go into a little video here, just speaking to exactly that, yeah, the importance of diversity in the workplace. Seconds. Okay, so I touched on three main advantages to having diversity in your work groups, yeah? And tell me what the first one was, yeah? No, not sure. So pretty much what they touched on was innovation, yeah. Right. So saying having, that's what we spoke about beforehand, those different experiences, different education, different histories, right, allows them to collaborate better together and to create a better business, yeah. The second one was a little bit more obvious, yeah. Does anyone catch the second thing, the second benefit there?
Is that talent pool? Was that
Sorry, I
maybe
missed that then.
growth? Was it the talent pool? Or was it
Yeah, growth,
innovation?
yeah.
Yeah.
Basically growth, yeah. So your business will actually be stronger and make more money from that innovation, yeah. It leads to growth and more customers. Okay. And also the final one there was reputation, yeah. So it improves your reputation in society, yeah. And also gives you a wider reach, yeah. So you have people from diverse backgrounds coming together, they go out and you get more widespread retelling of your story and people sharing their experiences with your business as they go back to their different family groups or societal groups. So thinking specifically now about youth work, yeah, how do you think those three principles might apply inside a community services context?
Clients, you've probably got a greater range of clients that will feel comfortable and confident about coming in because they feel like, that they may be represented and understood a little bit better.
Yeah, very good. I mean, Australia has a very, very diverse population, yeah? So you're going to deal with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. So if you have that represented inside your group, that allows you to do that better. What else?
They might be able to bring in insight on how to deal with their cultures. So to teach us cultural awareness, how we may deal with people from their cultures.
Yeah, good. So that's where that innovation part might be applied to the youth work parts, yeah? Right? So you can learn from each other different ways of dealing with people from different cultures, right? And that way the whole team or many, many members of the team become competent in dealing with those people from those backgrounds, not just the people that are from the same background. And the last one there, reputation. How do you think that could be applied in the community services setting?
It might assist you to attract funding and that sort of thing, perhaps, or businesses, community businesses and that sort of thing might be more inclined to partner in projects and that sort of thing if they feel that you're representing, different parts of the community.
Yeah, it's good. So you've got those first two there, and businesses and government agencies that hand out the funding can see that you're having an effect and that you have a positive impact on society, then they're more likely to partner with you and allow you to do more in the future, yeah? So it's a little bit different from, say, the reputation that Apple or a tech giant might want, but it's definitely still a part of a not-for-profit is their reputation, yeah? And the better it is within the community that you serve, then the more likely you are to assist them better in the future, yeah?
Hi, everyone. Jason here, producer of House Tech. Click the video on the left to watch the.
Right. All right, so let's get into it. What is diversity? Okay. And we touched on a lot of these before. So it can be gender, age, physical features. All right. So yeah, what we look like, yeah. This is probably can be where they're talking about body shaming and that sort of thing, would be examples of not doing, or where this is breaking down. Language is an obvious one, right? Physical disability, something you'll come across a lot probably in community services. You've not specifically used word. Religion, we mentioned. Values and beliefs. Okay. So how would you say this is different from religion? Values and beliefs, or beliefs and religion?
Well, values and beliefs come from the family, I suppose, and religion's a doctrine, I suppose. But then a lot of people get their values and beliefs from a religion, so.
Good, yeah. So religious people and their values and beliefs are very, very much interconnected with their religion. But obviously for people who are not religious, their values and their beliefs come from their family unit and their society instead. Yeah? Okay, good. Sexual orientation. Okay. Social class, that's one we didn't touch on before, yeah? So what's the most common way that our society is divided into class?
Well, isn't it white collar, blue collar, that kind of thing?
It can be based on their job, yeah.
Wealth, socioeconomic
Yeah.
wealth.
Yeah, it's mostly, that's how we divide it into classes most commonly in Western countries at least, yeah, is based on wealth, yeah? So you have that lower, middle, upper class kind of designation. And political affiliation. Okay, this one's probably becoming more and more, how would you say, pertinent in today's society. It seems that people are a little bit more polarized by their politics these days, and quite often can lead to very, very different ways of doing things. You only got to look at the difference between Sky News and the ABC just to see how much that affects the way the news is reported. All right, so lots of different ways that people can differ in how they approach life. Where are you from? Okay, I've got to stop video again for this one. So I'm going to look at, okay, so some interesting points they came up with there. The first one around personal space. Yeah. So the example that they used there was between genders for people who are Muslim. So there's no touching between genders. Can you give me some other examples of where personal space is different from between different cultures?
Some European-based cultures, I guess, quite the opposite. You know, they'll kiss you on both cheeks to greet you, and that sort of thing, and yeah, sort of can be quite close when they're talking to you, and that, and also maybe like eye contact amongst Aboriginal people, or there's probably other cultures as well where it's a sign of disrespect to look an older person in the eye and that sort of thing. So yeah, not assuming that they're disrespecting you by not making eye contact.
Yeah, good. Okay, and Asian cultures kind of in the middle there, yeah. Handshakes are usually okay, but yeah, they're not big on the hugging and that sort of thing, yeah. Usually a handshake is enough. What about the humor? Probably a very common one that causes some, how would you say, some tension in Australia. Australians have a very, what do you say? It's a nice way of saying it, yeah. Abrupt sense of humor sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, some cultures don't really get like sarcasm and that sort of thing.
Very true, yeah. Sarcasm is definitely not a universal thing. Yeah, what are some other differences? Yeah.
I think a lot of people, a lot of cultures and in different cultures, they don't like self-deprecating humor. Sometimes
Deprecating humor, yeah, good.
yeah, things like that. Where being in Australia, that's kind of a part of the course with most people to make people feel comfortable, I suppose.
Yeah, it's very common. Yeah, what about nicknames?
That's a big one.
Yeah,
Putting an O or a Y on the end of people's names in Australia is pretty common.
true, yeah.
You know, Tomo or Jacko or, you know,
Yeah.
Matty.
Yeah. So yeah, we like to make long names short and short names a bit longer, yeah.
I think even this tendency to change a person's name from a different culture. We try and Westernize their name if they seem to allow us to do that if it's the name's often mispronounced.
Yeah. It's true. A lot of people who, especially from Asian countries, will take an English name when they come here, yeah, rather than using their own name. All right. And public versus private, yeah. What do you think are some different things here, like things that Australians will discuss in public or do in public that don't really happen in other cultures?
I was just thinking like of the so for instance, like my wife's worked with a number of Chinese people over the year, like through business, and so they actually did some training around how to talk to people so that you know, like saving face is a big thing and that sort of thing, whereas Australians don't take themselves too seriously, so it can be really easy to offend a different kind of culture, not, you know, just by not understanding exactly what they value or what they feel is more important.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. So a good one with that with Chinese people is like you would never ever discuss politics with Chinese politics anyway with a Chinese person. Yeah, they just don't do it. Whereas sitting around between friends, and that's between friends, they don't really talk about it either. Yeah. Whereas Australians would be more inclined to do that sort of thing, especially to whinge about politicians. Australians love to talk about how crap politicians are. Yeah, that sort of thing doesn't happen in China. All right. So we're going to go on now and have a look at each of these categories a bit separately. Yeah, looking first at religious diversity. Yeah. So obviously there's a lot more religions to that, but that covers a large portion of the world. So what is the most common religion in Australia?
Christianity.
Christianity, and inside Christianity, it's kind of one dominant group. No.
Catholicism or Catholics?
Yeah, Roman Catholic. Yeah, mostly because that's who migrated here. Yeah, that's where most of the missionaries came from early on. It's also how they assimilated a lot of the indigenous tribes as well. Yeah, assimilated into that religion when they arrived. And of course, well, as it says there at the end, yeah, recent migration from Africa, the Middle East and Asia has obviously increased the diversity in those religions, bringing Islam, Buddhism, obviously a lot of Indian migrants now have brought Hinduism and Sikhism with them. Okay. But the majority of that happening in the last 50 to 60 years. All right, so you can see the change there. Look back a 53 years ago, less than 10% from other and no religions. Well, a bit over 10%, sorry. Almost 90% Christianity, down to what, less than 50 now, in 50 years. Interesting though, the biggest rise in all of that, people with no religion. Yeah. So what do you think is driving that sort of trend there for people to not have a religion these days, especially in Australia?
Been a fair bit of bad press.
Cultural diversity.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of bad press around the Roman Catholic Church. Yeah, I think left a lot of people disillusioned with it. What else has also become a lot more mainstream?
Gender diversity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I was thinking there was basically science has taken a lot more of a mainstream role than it used to. Yeah. Whereas 100, 200 years ago, it was kind of the purview of academics, and they would go off and study the sciences. It wasn't really for the masses, right? That's kind of changed with public education, where everybody has some sort of science education now, right? At least to the age of 15 or 16, yeah? So that possibly is what is driving that, yeah?
God. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go off into a couple of breakout rooms now, just to discuss this question with each other. Yeah, so we probably have 5 minutes with your partner, and you come back and we're going to share it with the group. Yeah, we should be getting pretty close to break time by that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. So I will post this in the chat so that you're able to see it once you get into your breakout rooms. So you'll have 5 minutes to discuss these with your partners, then coming back and sharing your ideas with the group. Right, here we go, going off in your breakout rooms now. Okay, Sammy and Scott, you want to add your ideas to that?
You go, Scott.
I think we're along the same line of thoughts. I think aged care, I also notice, as Matt said, it is predominantly a sort of Anglo-Saxon background of residents in there, and do have those a lot of same beliefs, such as wanting to have mass on Sundays and the services providing things like that, and workers with them. But I think it's also part of aged care is legally they're obliged to actually promote multiculturalism through the accreditation processes that offering for diversity, and making sure that there's diverse meals to allow for different cultures coming into the aged care sector. Yeah, same. So with food, considering a lot of it in the aged care and practices is considering the food brought in. Same to going into youth. I mean, based on this, where I work as a youth school, where we're providing food for them, so I allow for cultural differences and religious backgrounds. So we try and serve a fish option on Friday for allowing that as well, and provide particularly no pork options. So if we're ever producing pork, then we consider the religious implications of pork dishes. So making separate dishes for or a second option for people in those circumstances as well. And Sammy?
Good.
No, that pretty much covered it. And we just sort of said, going with what you said, Dan, getting to know their religion, and we sort of said with that, and if they practice it, I was saying that some kids might only practice their religion at home with their family, not so much when they're they're at school or when they're with their friends and stuff like that. So other than that, that was about it.
Yeah, so just on that point where you're trying to understand other people's religions, what's the best way for you to go about that? Yeah. There's two tools you really use, yeah? And they work very, very well for people in this situation, yeah?
I think basic communication and asking.
Yeah, good. Open-ended questions, right?
Researching what you can and asking them. So ask what their religion is and try and research to what sort of specific things that they might need.
Yeah. So usually these sort of things are very integral to a person. So it's something they enjoy talking about, yeah? So if you ask them a couple open-ended questions, they'll enjoy telling you about it, helping you understand, yeah? And then, yeah, the second one on that, the active listening, yeah? Right? It's a really good opportunity to practice your active listening skills, acknowledge what they're saying, paraphrasing, checking your understanding of it, right? That sort of using those two tools when you're dealing in that situation will give you a lot of, will help you very quickly build rapport with your clients, yeah? When you should take an interest like that and show that you're interested in their responses, very, very good way to build rapport with them. All right. So we've gone just past 7, yeah, 7:03. So we're going to have our first break and we'll come back at 7:13, yeah? All right, thank you. All right, everyone back now?
Yep.
Okay, let's carry on, yeah? So next topic, we're looking at disability. All right, so obviously it covers a wide range of them in those 5 different domains there: physical, cognitive, sensory, behavioral, and communication. Physical, I think we're all aware of. The 3 in the middle there, cognitive, sensory, and behavioral. Are there any you clear on what those mean? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty clear.
Yeah, so sensory, obviously, something to do with sight, smell, hearing, yeah. Behavioral, can be anything from ODD, yeah, or ODD is a good example, yeah, oppositional defiance disorder, yeah. Behavioral, and communication. So communication could be like a speech impediment or something, yeah. So the main thing to talk about here is focusing on what people can do, yeah, rather than focusing on what they can't. Obviously, these people are very, very aware of their limitations, but their supports need to be provided around focus on what can be changed, yeah. And then at the bottom, that the self-determination is a big part of what we offer in our supports these days. So we're going to watch a little another video now on someone, a person with a disability, speaking about not being other people's inspiration. Okay, so here we go.
Yeah, I just gathered from that is that just to be able to function normally in society is not like inspirational to them, but actually them achieving something that we could achieve, but they're doing with a disability is inspirational. You know, like going above and beyond, physically or mentally, and it certainly gives me, like, from my perspective anyway, like I see guys be able to do amazing things with the disabilities that I couldn't do. Inspires me, instead of watching it inspiration porn and thinking that, oh, good on them for doing that because they're disabled, kind of thing, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, her first point there was interesting. Yeah, it's like her parents said it. It's like she didn't actually do anything, so why are you giving her an achievement award? Yeah. So her point was, yeah, okay, give us achievement awards, but do it because we achieved something, not because we just managed to be alive. Yeah. Which is very interesting. I guess they're just expecting to be treated like everyone else. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty normal thing. Yeah. All right. Let's get back into the next topic here. We're going to look a little bit at gender now. All right. All right. So historically, yes, applying to equality between men and women. So you're kind of the only one representing women tonight, yeah? What do you think of this current state of affairs in gender equality in Australia?
Oh, I'd say it's come a long way, and they're trying to make, I guess, in the women's roles, like they're trying to push for more women to do like industries and like building and carpentry and even machines and things like that. So I think we're getting there, but I don't know, we are too different, really. So I don't think we're ever going to be equal, but that's my perspective. But it's certainly getting there. We're certainly a lot better than what we used to be anyway.
Yeah. So do you think it's necessary for men and women to be the same, for us to be equal?
My personal opinion, no.
Yeah.
No. I think it should be fair, but I don't think that's the same as being equal. No.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings up some interesting points here, because there's a lot of inequality both ways. Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry, go.
I think as well. My life experience in mining and stuff like that, I think technology's actually brought the equality together as well. With the ability, you know, with in physical roles and those kind of things where there was an imbalance. Now there's more of an I think equalities have become, because we don't need the physical strength to do the roles that we used to do before. Everything's a lot more automated, so they can't, you know,
it's
like
machine operation rather than manual
machine
labor.
operation, and more technology brought the genders together, which is a good thing, I think. But
so there was an interesting study in Nordic countries around gender equality and that sort of thing, and they're kind of widely known as being some of the most progressive countries in that. Yeah, and they found that when people were left alone, that they naturally kind of migrated into those old traditional ones more so than in countries where there were quotas and expectations on it. So for example, they found that without any kind of encouragement or maintaining of quotas, that there were just more female nurses than there were male nurses. That's just more women wanted to do that job than men, yeah. And the same in engineering. There was just more male engineers than there were female engineers. And nobody really cared. Yeah, everyone was just doing jobs that they were happy with, and like that's okay. You don't have to have quotas of people in jobs to be equal. That's kind of what they found, yeah. It's more around, I guess you would call it equality of opportunity, yeah. Everyone should have the opportunity, the same opportunity as anyone, regardless of gender, yeah. And if they choose to do that, whatever they choose to do with that opportunity is up to them, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like, it's interesting because my dad was a male nurse and it was a female orientated industry, right? So that there's no equality in that the other way around. So it is actually quite interesting where how that spins it. Now I've heard of that study you were talking about in the kibbutz, and there's an ancient tribe, the kibbutz, and then they leave them, the same thing happened, and they just trying to, it's like nurturing traits are more, you know, and then men are more mechanically minded and those kind of things, and then your personality traits and all that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, education is the same now. Scott, you'd recognize that as well, yeah? Working in a school. Yeah, I mean, that's my day job. I work for Education Queensland, and yes, it's extreme minority for males in education these days, yeah? Yeah, high schools not so much, but primary schools, yeah, you're talking like there might be one, maybe two male teachers at a school these days out of 20, which is very, very different to the past, but not necessarily a bad thing, yeah. Obviously, all right.
I think even with the teaching, the age groups too, I think they especially like prep teachers would be predominantly females. There'd be even less amount of male teachers being prep is maybe seen as needing more nurturing at those stages of
Well, and
development.
it's very much focused on play-based learning at that time, yeah. It's not really not a lot of implicit or explicit instruction at that time. It's more playing games and learning through discovery of games and stuff, yeah. Which again is that more nurturing kind of.
It's such a divisive kind of taboo subject in the real world, this gender thing at the moment too, which is quite interesting.
Well, I find it interesting. My mind has a balancing. We talk of cultural acceptance and the Indigenous culture. Often the Indigenous people that we work with saying how it's very much dominated. I was at a conference where saying the women aren't allowed to touch a didgeridoo, and we're accepting of that as their culture. But there's another part of us saying, well, where's the gender equality? I think we're not sort of, there seems to be a point where we're questioning gender equality, but we'll allow other cultures to maybe have beliefs that would challenge that gender equality.
It's interesting too, because it doesn't afford itself to Christian faith or Buddhist faith or any kind of faith if they're faith-based, if they're a faith-based family or people as well. It's more kind of like traditional versus progressive in a lot of instances, I think, what I've noticed.
That's true, yeah. Most states still have that expect that traditional family unit, yeah. Like the male's working, the mother's at home, child rearing. But it'd be interesting to know that was a part of the reason that a lot more people have no religion these days as well, though, yeah. I never really read anything about that though. All right. So something else that's kind of come up more so in modern times, but it's probably been around as long as gender inequality, is talking about gender identity and sexual orientation. Obviously not the same thing. So non-binary being the new one that they've come up with, and You can see Dan shaking his head there. So yeah, basically we all have a gender identity. There's lots of schools of thought on this, like the traditional one being there's two genders, you're a man or a woman. And more the modern school of thought that gender is a social construction, not a physiological thing. So basically, if you think it, then that makes it a reality. That's the basis of social constructionism, yeah. And obviously separate from sexual orientation, right? So this is the people you are attracted to sexually. And that has led to the expansion of the acronym. So it started off as LGBT, now we're at LGBTIQ. I think there's an A in there now as well, yeah, plus. So obviously plus meaning could be other people in there as well. Interesting, probably the transgender one is the biggest one that's been in the news recently. And it seems to be, I don't know, changing very, very rapidly, yeah? And it's kind of gone back to the old way recently, you would say, yeah? A couple of news stories recently around sporting bodies banning transgender women from competing against other women. I think just last week there was a trans athlete in America that lost her claim to try and go to the Paris Olympics for swimming. So very, very interesting topic. Thinking specifically now in your in the youth works sphere, yeah, what's how is this something that's going to, or how do you need to be aware of this and when you're actually practicing with your clients, yeah?
I think as far as in a youth work setting goes, like whether it's how they identify or any other part of their personal and private life, like we're not there to judge and that sort of thing. So it's more about just working with them as a person, and we just need to be aware that, you know, as young people, this is the way that the world is, and this is how some people feel, and it's not up to us to question whether they're right or wrong or whether they should or shouldn't. It's actually just about us being there to support them as the person that they are and the person that they want to identify as.
Yeah, I would say, and I mean, this is something you have to take very, very seriously, and because it can have very, very tragic outcomes. Okay, now that's not to say that you need to be the solution to it, but it's something you need to be very, very aware of and understand what supports you can refer this young person to. Yeah.
Well, the LGBT community is like grossly overrepresented in, you know, suicide and those sorts of things.
Yeah, and that's
so
kind of what I was alluding to. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. These people are very, very prone to suicide. Yeah, if they're not getting the supports that they need. Now, I'm not saying you need to be that support. Yeah, there's probably more than you'd be able to handle, right? But if you're coming up against this sort of thing, you need to be very aware that it can become a very serious situation very quickly. And that's probably where you need to understand your referrals and get these people the extra supports as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Not so much around sexual orientation these days. It seems to be a lot more mainstream acceptance for that. So it's still not great, but it's better than it was 20 years ago. But definitely around trans, trans kids these days, they're suffering a lot, and are massively overrepresented in the suicide rate. Yeah.
being
Yeah.
like trauma aware, that a lot of them had like earlier onsets of trauma. So in your approach to know what some of their traumas
Yeah.
may have been and how that's affecting them in their current age.
Yeah. And there
It
are
is.
a lot of supports and a lot of services around now for this sort of thing. So it's just something, yeah, always be aware of what you have available to you and act on it as soon as possible. Yeah.
Yep.
That's probably the main takeaway from that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like for me personally, like my ex's sister's son's transitioning. He's a really nice person. It's actually interesting. And then my daughter's gay as well, and then my brother's gay as well. So I'm kind of in the middle. I've always had it in my family, and there's always been an acceptance of it, and they're really lovely. And I had a lot of exposure when I was younger, so it's quite interesting with the identity problems they have. But I think, you know, content of their character is an important thing to me, I suppose, as well. You know what I mean? Like when you're dealing in a youth work setting, I hope, you know, just treating them. That does it always become a conversation? You know what I mean? Like that's probably the biggest thing for me in those kind of settings, you know.
Yeah. So what did you mean by that, Dan?
I mean, like, does it, you know, like, because they identify very deeply with it, but in a youth work setting, is that their main identity? You know what I mean? Is that something that has to be put up to the table straight away when you're discussing and referring problems? You know what I mean? Like, it's
No, yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. And like you said, you're always going to be looking to work with your client. Yeah. So basically you're asking questions and letting them tell you what the problems are, not diagnosing it yourself. Yeah. It's that trauma informed care, but also client centered care. Yeah? That's what you're looking for. All right. Okay, so just some actual definitions of what we're talking about. So transgender, non-binary, and intersex. Right? Obviously, intersex is a very, very small minority. All right, we already had a pretty good discussion about that one, so yeah, right, moving on. Generational diversity. Okay, obviously talking about different ages here, and each generation is obviously different from the one before. Just basically due to what's going on in the world. Yeah, anyone who was raised and grew up through the world wars is obviously going to have a very different point of view on the world than someone who grew up in the age of broadband and social media. Yeah, just those world experiences lead to very, very different points of view. Sorry. Most common though when we talk about age discrimination, well, two things that come up in the workplace, yes, but then we also have the what I call elder abuse, yeah, so younger people taking advantage of their parents or uncles and aunts. So let's just have a quick chat about this one, yeah, because it's not too pertinent to you. So thinking about the aged care sector mostly, yeah. So you guys are just coming into community services, focusing on youth work, but it's possible you'll do that. So what do you think is going to change in the next 20 years in how or what people expect from aged care? You're thinking now people going into aged care were born just after the Second World War. Yeah. In 20 years' time, you'll have people that were born during the Vietnam War, pretty much.
I think like people that are sort of approaching the, I guess, the aged care age now, and sort of the next sort of, 5 to 10 years, like generalizing, they probably had or have maybe a higher quality of life than people that were sort of the generation before them. They've had, and it is generalizing because not everybody's like that, but I think there'll be higher expectations from the aged care sector, or sorry, higher expectations from the people who are going into aged care than what there has been previously, just because they've grown up.
Yeah,
with
so
those
just
things.
on that one, what was kind of that old style of aged care for, like, what would have been our grandparents or older? Where did they go?
Retirement homes.
Yeah, no, old people's homes. That's where they went. Yeah.
Hmm.
What is the kind of shift in the industry now towards,
There's a lot more like supported living and that sort of thing, which is sort of, I guess it's a prelude to aged care, but I guess people can probably remain in supported living. If they didn't have supported living, they might have to go into aged care earlier, but if they have supported living, then they can, I guess, remain independent for longer.
Yeah, definitely. And there will be a point where if they need, round the clock medical care, they have to go into a facility. But as you're saying, this generation now, the boomers, are a lot more affluent, so they can afford to pay more can afford to pay for in-home care and age in their home for as long as possible, which was obviously not a choice so much in the past. Yeah.
So are we going to be more reliant on the state and the welfare system in regards to aged care as these more and more people grow older, but without the wealth pool that the baby boomers they have?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, because the other thing is too, like 2 or 3 generations ago, they used to retire at 65 and they'd all die in their 70s. That just doesn't happen anymore. Our average age for women now is 85. For men is 83, I think. So people are living for 20 years into retirement now. That's another very, very big difference in the sector. Yeah. Like, sorry, go Dan.
I just read something in regards to, because of inflation, that's kind of happened to us as well. Because of the money's not as worth as much as it was back 20, 30 years ago. Consequently, cost of living's higher. Cost of living, we can't actually afford to actually to live that long.
Yeah. We run out of money, so yeah, that's it. We don't really have a choice. It's going to be interesting for us. Yeah. I don't think the age pension will exist in the form that it does at the moment by the time we get there. But yeah, I think definitely that age in home model is going to become a lot more popular in that sector, simply because it's funded more by people and not by the government. The other thing to remember too is the baby boomers is a boom. Yeah. So there was that big groundswell of people, but 30 years later it went back to normal. So it's not like it's just going to become a whole bunch of old people and stay that way forever. It will contract back to like that regular pyramid of population that you have in most countries. Yeah. But Australia is not unique in that one either. Pretty much every country in the world has that boom after the Second World War. All right, not too much to focus on in youth work for you there, so I might just move on from that one. Work practices and diversity. Okay, so both your clients and your colleagues will come from diverse backgrounds, yes? But everyone in that has value and deserves respect. And then obviously through that, we are promoting cooperation and harmonious work relationships. So we're not going to bother to do this one as a research topic. We'll just have a quick chat around it. So what regulations, standards, or acts support culture and diversity in the workplace?
Anti-Discrimination Act.
Good, yes. That covers a lot of it, yeah.
Like the Charter of Human Rights, or the
Human
Charters
rights,
of Human
good,
Rights.
yes.
They have a bullying and harassment policy of some sort, isn't there, most workplaces?
I don't think that's at like the act level, but there's definitely
Oh, okay,
regulations
okay.
and standards around that, yeah.
Health and safety.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear that one.
Scott said work health and safety.
Good, yeah, that's kind of, yeah, at the regulations level, yeah. Workplace health and safety. All right, at the acts level, you would probably have the equal opportunity, equal EEO, Equal Employment Opportunity Act. Yeah, again, that's very similar to the anti-discrimination one. Regulations. This is more at company level, yeah. So what sort of regulations do companies have in place to support culture and diversity inside their companies?
Well, a lot of them like reference those acts that we've just talked about, I suppose. So
yeah,
yeah, they sort of, I guess that's the basis of those regulations a lot of the time, isn't it?
It is, yeah. They quite often go a lot further than the acts though, yeah. They'll have specific regulations. Scott, you might have heard of this. Working in education, they actually have what they call inside, well, education department hours, they have what they call identified positions, yeah. So they are positions, and obviously it's not a stacked, but it's a regulation that these identified positions must be filled by a certain demographic of person. Yeah, so that would be in state schools, they have what they call a community education counselor, which is basically support for Indigenous students. So that person must be Indigenous. Yeah, you can't hire a white person to do it. Yeah, it's what they call an identified position. Yeah. So you have regulations like that at company or department level. You'll also find some people, there'll be quotas that exist at that level as well, yeah? So you must have this many of this particular demographic, yeah? That's not as widespread, those sort of things though, but they do happen at company or department level.
Very much big in mining, in my industry.
Oh, really? Can you give us an
massive.
example?
Oh, well, we have plenty of positions available I work for FMG, which is the mining up north, and I work down at Port Hedland fly in, fly out positions.
Yeah.
And there are quotas for gender, there's quotas for the Indigenous, there's quotas for all these positions which are specifically targeted at different genders, and especially Indigenous, and in regards to apprenticeships, specifically apprenticeships as well, and
Okay.
different positions. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
Right, yeah. So yes, having a look at those aspects now, yeah. So legislative framework, that's what we're talking about. Training skills and knowledge, and organizational policies and procedures. Yeah, these are all those three things we're looking at there, yeah. So training skills and knowledge, obviously at the company level or at the work unit level, and then organizational policies and procedures at the company level, and then legislative, that is at the government level, yeah. All right, some skills and strategies around that, yeah. Looking at the willingness to learn from others, understanding your own culture and its influences and self-awareness, right? So that comes down to last week we were talking about cultural competence, yeah? Or the video was, yes. And non-judgmental attitudes and understanding inclusion principles. And then back to our 4 tenets of communication, yeah? Effective listening, active and appropriate communication, appropriate terminology, right? And ability to work with interpreters and translators. All right. So I've got a little case study. I'm going to put you off into breakout rooms again. And I'll post that one in there for you, but just have a quick read of it before we do that, yeah? Got that before I put you into the breakout rooms? I will copy and paste this into the chat for you so you'll be able to read it again once you're there. All right. Here we go, going into breakout rooms now. Okay, you guys okay?
Yep.
Yep. Sorry, I got kicked out of the room again then for some reason. All right, so we're just talking about the case study there. So Matt and Dan, you want to share first?
Yeah, I was with.
I was
with
with someone
Scott.
else.
Sorry.
That's
It was
all right.
Dan.
I can
Switched
share
it
first.
around.
Yeah, I switched it around. Yeah, so yeah, Dan, you want to share first then?
Go, Dan.
Yeah, okay. We kind of like the short stature syndrome. We were kind of like making sure that that the seats in the desk were an appropriate height and or like right enough to be able to function. Maybe a headset just in regards to answering phone calls, et cetera, making sure the facilities were actually tailored so we could actually reach everything and be able to use the facilities that were given in regards to toilets and kitchen and having lunch and all those kind of lunchrooms and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good, yeah, so yeah, making sure that what physical accommodations made, yep.
Yeah, and then we did touch on like making sure all the colleagues were aware that and to make sure that the environment was inclusive and that there was no, you know what I mean, like it was appropriate. There's no inappropriate humor, you know what I mean, like things that and all those kind of things. So everyone's kind of aware.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. All right. The other group, do you have anything you want to add on to that one? So obviously there's some physical accommodations to be made. Anything else?
Yeah, we said like along the same lines, and yeah, we talked about sort of having some, like whether it's, I don't know what you call it, like awareness training or something for existing employees, like Dan was saying. But also we sort of thought that one of our first steps would be even, like when we had the conversation around, congratulations, you've got the job, all that sort of stuff, is actually asking him you know, about the sorts of things that he might need, because I guess, like, reflecting on that video, like, he might not actually be comfortable with like the whole setup being changed. He might actually like to, you know, some things to remain the same so that it doesn't, you know, highlight, you know, that he finds it more difficult to do some things than other people. So it would actually be an open conversation with him around, okay, well, you know, what accommodations can we make, you know, before you start, like, you know, is there a particular, you know, kind of desk that would be easier for you, or, you know, if it was having an interview, then he might see the space already. So just that open communication as well.
And just kind of
Yeah, good, very good.
we're looking at like collaboration. So collaboration, problem solving techniques into being inclusive to what his needs are, him dictating to us what kind of things that he needs, rather than we dictate or make assumptions of what his needs are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's going to know better than anybody what he requires. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's he knows himself better. So like being like I don't know, almost like a person-centered approach to solutions, rather than being a disability approach of it, sort of thing.
Hmm. What things might he also bring up that could avoid some problems? Yeah, if you're talking to Riley about this. We're talking about physical adjustments. What else might he tell you that on the opposite side to that could actually avoid some problems?
Maybe just like language and that sort of thing that's or terminology that people use when talking to him or about him.
Yeah.
And just that's where Matt and I were discussing that in awareness training, to see if that we can gain anything from other areas to become aware and make our staff aware of what they would be and how they need to be wording their conversations.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's very good to come from Riley, because he might not care about any of that. He goes, call me a dwarf, I don't care, really. Yeah, and you go through all this training with your staff, and then he's like, what are you doing now? Okay, so again, you're letting him decide what adjustments he needs, yeah, not just physically, but also in training for your staff. And also the opposite side to that, he's going to tell you the things that he doesn't want, yeah? Similar to that woman in that gave the speak, the TED talk, yeah? There might be a lot of things that he doesn't need, yeah, that you might try and put in there as with the right idea, you're trying to include him, but from his point of view, not something that he needs. So yeah, end up being a waste of time. In
some stages, maybe if you make certain changes, it would be more inclusive for him. So if we went to a point where we were seeing that perhaps a laptop might be the best piece of equipment for him, or for offering that to other staff, so it sees that that's an inclusive process and we're not singling him out, so that all staff may be working off laptops, mobile phones, headsets, and that way we haven't changed to make him see single focused, and that way he's more incorporated into the team by being inclusive operations for everybody.
Yeah, good. All right, so we're at 8:15, yeah, so we might have a break for 10 minutes, come back at 8:25, and we'll carry on, yeah?
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right, thank you. All right. Everyone back? Okay.
I'm depressed now because New South Wales just scored. So
yeah. I was holding out on that information.
All right.
Sorry.
I wasn't going to bring it up. Yeah, I didn't want to. We're on the moon.
Not like you. In blue support. I'm just kidding.
I'm in a positive frame. Right, you got to get along with the blue supporters. That's what makes it fun, is to actually
Diversity.
Diversity, mate.
Yeah.
It's diversity.
Diversity. It's all diversity, you mean? It's professional.
Yeah, without the opposition, you don't have the game. So there's got to be that. It should be friendly rivalry, isn't it? It's only a game.
So they reckon.
That's true. It's a very.
I think I had a friend actually post a stat about domestic violence for women is something like 3 times more likely to be attacked on state of origin night, or something like that. The incidents increase on state of origin night because
Really?
it's like,
Oh my
like,
God.
yeah, it kind of seems
So-
ridiculous to abuse your partner because your football
happened-
team that lost.
The New
I
Zealand
remember
national
hearing an
team.
old joke about Collingwood about that. Yeah, it's like, how do you know when Collingwood lost? Is it because half the wives turn up at the hospital? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. Like in back home, when the All Blacks lose, suicide rates go up and domestic violence rates go up. It's amazing. Amazing.
Wow.
Mm.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's very, very serious for a for a football game. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely has a religious spin to it, you know.
Well, yeah, New Zealand and their rugby, you do love it.
Yeah, God. All right, what are we doing?
Okay, yeah, let's get into it. So we've got about half an hour left now. So we can keep going over a bit of content, or we can just talk a little bit about the assessment and what you'll need to do for that.
That'd be good.
Yep. All right. So have you all got a copy of your learner's guide now?
Is that
Yeah,
up in the-
I'd like to say I'm organised enough to have checked that already. Ben, I'm too far behind to know that, but I'm pretty sure I've got learner's guides for all the modules. So
Okay, so yeah, that's your first port of call, yeah? So a lot of
Yeah.
what we're covering in the topics, but it also expands on what we do in the PowerPoint slides, so it is important that you go through that.
I've been going through the modules. Is that the modules? Is that you're talking about the learning materials? Is that the modules? You know, like the learning guide? Are you talking about that, or?
Yeah, so I think there's six units in the learner's guide for this
Yep.
unit, yeah. Each of them have like review questions at the end.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's first thing. That's not actually marked assessment yet. It's just formative assessment, but it's very, very good way to prepare you for any or the other assessments that come up. Yeah. Let's see.
I know. Can I say something?
Yep.
I went through module 1, 2, and 3, and did the modules on the learning materials in
Yeah.
regards to diversity. Some of the
Yeah.
questions were wrong, like the answers were wrong. So
Learner's guide, really?
yeah, in the module, because I'd write, you know, like as I was going through it, I would read the questions. The one that sticks in my mind is the invisible and visible differences. So one of the questions asks you, and then it says match the visible with the invisible, and then connect them together. And then what I've written down and what the subject matter told me and what the answers were completely different. And I kept getting that answer wrong.
Right.
So that's quite
something. We do have a register for that sort of thing. When the assessment is wrong. So if that happens, just email me or Vicky or something, and I'll get added in that to be fixed up.
Cool. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So there's 3 pieces of assessment for this one. Yeah. What we're just talking about there. Yeah. First port of call. Yeah. Your learner's guide. Read through that. Do the review questions from that. That'll pretty much set you up to finish task 1, which is the written questions. Okay, like you have for pretty much every unit. Yeah, that's just testing your content. Okay. And you have 8 scenarios basically in that one, yeah? Well, sorry, they're not, there's a few definition ones at the top and then some scenarios at the end, but there's 8 questions in there for you to answer. All right, you seeing that? Can you find that one inside your unit?
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I've just gone into like, and it's like one of 8 questions. Is that what you're talking about, Ben?
Yeah, that's the one. Yes. So
Yeah.
question 1 is define diversity in your own words and describe
Yeah.
the concept of diversity in the workplace. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
8 of them total, and they'll all come. Those answers will all be inside the learner's guide or the PowerPoints that we've covered. Now, I'm going to actually add. Yeah, we are recording. Good. Right.
Hey, Dan, what were you
second
talking
one.
about with visible and invisible? Where were you reading that?
That was in the modules, in the learning materials.
Oh, okay.
So I was just going through that. That's mine. I was just doing the modules and then
Yeah.
progressing through them. Like, what do we, a lot of we talked about tonight was in those modules.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, all of it, really. Yeah. That learner guide you were talking about, where is it? Is that in resources?
Yes. So you go into resources and you type your unit code at the top, CHCDIV001, and search for that. It'll be in amongst all of those. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got you.
All right. So that one's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably the one that'll take you the longest though. So you've got to get through all of that content. But that's where you'll find your answers. So you've done your learner's guide and you've done those review questions, then doing those written questions should be pretty easy for you. If you're pretty confident in your understanding of this, then you can just go straight to those questions and have a go. Yeah, obviously you will get some feedback if you're not getting them all correct. That's another way to go about it. I'll leave it up to you how you like to approach your assessments. Some people like to get it right first time, every time. Other people are okay with just having a shot and then fixing it up later. Right? You can decide which way you like to do it. All right. Tasks 2 and 3 get a little bit more difficult, more involved. It's more the application of all of that knowledge. Yeah. So in task 2, you'll have 5 case studies. All right. 1 around team conflict. Okay. And then 4 around different clients by the name of Joan. And a case study for Therese, case study for Tom and Dave, and a case study for Martin. Right. You'll have different things to complete in each one. So the first case study, right, you'll have your scenario. What you'll need to do is identify the issues from that scenario that you read. Okay, and indicate the cultural differences, yeah, that are not being understood at that point, yeah. And staff bonding day. Okay, so yes, based on identifying those issues, you'll then need to create or plan a staff bonding day, yeah, to deal with those issues. Basically, a team building activity is what they're looking for, yeah. Right. Good one. A good one to think about that is some sort of cultural exchange. So where everybody gets to bring in something from their own culture and share it with everybody. So it can be food or some activity or game or something like that. Yeah. It's a good inclusion activity that also helps people learn and understand other cultures. All right. Second one is focused around a First Nations situation. In particular, a woman named June. Yeah. So basically, there's some conflict between Joan and another woman named Hani. You'll need to add again, identify the issues and then come up with a support for Joan based on what you identify in that situation. The third one is Therese. Basically, Therese has a language problem. So this one you'll be looking at involving an interpreter and helping Therese with that one. Tom and Dave, right? This is talking about sexual orientation, basically a bit of discrimination based around Tom bringing his partner Dave to a work social function. And again, the same idea. You have to identify the issues, yeah, and then come up with some actions based on those issues. Pretty standard case study stuff, yeah. And the last one, Martin, this is around generation gap or age-based stuff, yeah. A little bit simpler, this one, just 3 questions to answer, right, based on that scenario. The role play for this one is very, very similar to case study 2 there, yeah. So it involves, you need to do this in groups of 4. Yeah. Hang on, I just got to bring up the role play checklist. Sorry, instructions. So in this one, there's 2 parts to it. Yeah, pretty much. In the first scene, there is basically you're the support worker in the scene, right? And there is some tension or fighting between 2 of your colleagues or people who work for you. One of them is an Indigenous guy, another one a Muslim man. Basically, they'll be prompting you with a whole lot of culturally insensitive comments about each other's character, but they'll be doing it in front of a client. Okay, so the 4th person in the role play is actually an elderly client that they are helping.
Hey, Ben.
The main thing to remember in this is that your first duty is, or your first responsibility is your duty of care to the client. Yeah. So remember that when you're doing your role play, first thing you do is check on your client. Okay.
Hey, Ben.
Yes.
I'm just looking at the assessments, and I don't actually, mine isn't a role play. My 3 of 3 is actually cultural research and activity.
Mine too.
Mine too.
So
yeah, sorry. You will do that as well. This is the role play is like 3B, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, cool.
So that's cultural one is what you'll also have to submit that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This is the role play you'll do in real time, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
In a group. So it's as well as that one. Yes. Okay. So this is one of your role plays you actually need to do in front of an assessor, yeah. So you will have to book in a time and do this in a group with other people. It's not a particularly difficult one. Like there will be some conflict between the 2 men and the roles that are being played in that one. But like I said, yeah, your main responsibility is your duty of care to your client. So you start with that one, yeah. First thing, check on the client, make sure they're okay. And then obviously you need to use your de-escalation tactics with the two men then to get them to calm down. Right. So that's the first part of the role play. Right, is diffusing that situation and exercising your duty of care for your client. Yeah. The second part of the role play, right, is then you talking to your supervisor about what happened in the first part. Things to suggest here, or the main thing that you want to do here is you're non-judgmental. Don't take a side and choose who's right or wrong. And that you come up with some suggestions for your supervisor on what you can do to resolve the situation. Similar to your staff bonding day that you would have done back in one of the case studies, yeah? Right. Similar. So remember in the two parts, yeah? First part, exercise your duty of care for your client. That's your main responsibility. And then de-escalate what's happening, right, between the two men. That's your goals in the role play. You've got to show those two things, right? And then in the second part, right, non-judgmental, objective reporting of what happened to your supervisor and some suggestions on what can be done to resolve the situation. It's the main things for you to focus on. And then the part you were talking about, yes, you can do this before you do the role play if you want, right? It's up to you, or you can save it for afterward. Right? But you have your two things to report in there, like a research and report on the 3 clients, yeah, and then prepare a poster to demonstrate your knowledge of discrimination and human rights. So you have 1 paragraph, which is very, very vague, yeah. I would suggest you write at least 50 words. Don't write more than 200, yeah.
So is it a paragraph about the Age Discrimination Act and a paragraph about Disability Discrimination Act? Is that what the paragraphs refer to?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a pretty wordy poster, isn't it?
I was just thinking, why do they call it a poster? Yeah. Because yes, it's going to be very wordy, yeah.
So we just got to write words and make it pretty. Is that it?
Honestly, this is just an assessment. You're not going to be judged on your ability to design a poster. Yeah. You've got 5 acts there. I would just focus on writing 5 very clear, well-structured paragraphs and don't worry about how pretty it looks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And how do they apply to your rights and responsibility as a support worker? So it could be like a poster you'd see in your workplace reminding you about your obligations as a support worker, referencing those things, I guess.
Yeah. You see them all over the place, yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see all 5 of these on one poster. There would be 5 different posters all over the staff room at your place, yeah. Yeah, that sort of thing, yeah.
All right, cool, thanks.
Yeah. All right. How are you going with all that, Sammy? It's a lot of information there.
Yeah, all good. The poster's throwing me out now, but
Yeah, like I said, don't worry about the poster comment. Yeah, just focus on 5 well-structured, informative paragraphs. Yeah. I'm not quite sure why they called it a poster, to be honest. Yeah. Dan, Scott, how are you going with all of that?
Yeah, it seems all good. I'm fine with that.
You're good. Have you already started the written questions, Dan?
I had a look at them and assessed them, and I've done a lot of the modules and a lot of writing just in regards to with the questions, but I haven't
Yeah.
actually attempted anything yet.
All right. Okay, good. Scott, you okay?
Yeah, I kind of prefer just to do the modules first and look at the assessments, because we've got that kind of little bit of a delay thing. So,
Yep.
yeah.
All right. So for you guys, you usually have free time in the evenings during the week, or you prefer to do your study on the weekends?
Changes for each one of us from week to week as well.
Yeah.
Ben. So I think a lot of us are working, so we try and do stuff on the weekends, but you know, we've got families and work and everything else, so some weeks you do more than others.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. So I put my email in the chat there, and 1 sec, I'm going to put in just a link to my calendar. So when you're ready for your role play, you can either email me or just book straight in on that calendar. Once I know that one of you is ready, I'll go and find some other people to join in with you. Yeah.
Also, I was going to ask as well, because I'm over in Perth, it's really hard to get a calendar like invite, like, you know, how those times are put up that are free for you guys.
Yeah.
That's really tough to get like a meeting, because obviously I work from 6 till 4 in the afternoon, 6 a.m. till 4. So I'm just trying to get on.
So that's 6 our time, yeah. So I work 5 to 9 Tuesday to Friday, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So if you want to try and book it in for like a 7 o'clock Eastern time, you want to try and book in something like that when you're ready, you should be able to do it.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. Yeah, because I thought, because when I looked at it, I thought there was just certain times put that were available, and you could only click on those ones, and there were only like a few there. But now I've got this calendar, and it's all good now.
Yeah. You see, I think I'm pretty much booked out for the rest of this week, but I don't think I have anything in next week yet. Yeah.
All right, I'll jump on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to put another one in there as well in case. So this one's a little bit different. Yeah, you'll notice at the end there it says 30 minutes. If you get stuck on anything or you have any questions, you can use that one just to book a little 30-minute chat with me. Yeah, as well.
Cool. Excellent.
I think Vicky's pretty much snowed under with ASPA stuff, so I'm going to be with you for the next 3 weeks as well, doing DIV002. We lost a little bit of time last week on the recording as well, so tomorrow night I'll go through and just do a recording of the PowerPoints we haven't done yet. Obviously it'll be a lot quicker because there won't be any conversations in there, but that'll go out to you early next week as well, and you'll get tonight's recording tomorrow.
Hey Ben, last week I did receive, I don't know if you guys got it as well, got a recording. I actually didn't watch it. I watched like 20 seconds of it, but I assumed it was a different class doing the same module. Is that
Yeah, it was. Like I got kicked out about 6 seconds into the class last week, yeah. So my recording that I made of the class last week was 6 seconds long.
We actually hung around for.
Hi, my name's Ben.
Yeah.
Go on. So they sent out a previous session that had been recorded, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
So what you'll get tomorrow will be tonight's class, be a good 2.5 hours in there. And then early next week, you'll get a recording with the content we haven't covered yet.
Yeah, cool. All right. We hung around last week for, I don't know, must have been pretty close to an hour and just sort of chatted amongst ourselves.
Oh, nice. Good. Yeah.
Just around, you know, diversity in our own communities or lack thereof sometimes, and our experiences and stuff like that. So it was good. Well, we got to know Dan, who's new, but also got
Yeah,
a
this is the
couple of
easiest course ever.